Have you ever found yourself alone, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, deeply and utterly alone? Have you ever sat in silence and wondered why everything and everyone around you seemed to vanish just when you needed them most? The truth is, God has a way of working in silence. He has a way of stripping you down, pulling you back, cutting the noise and setting you apart, and not to punish you, not to leave you in despair, but to prepare you. See, there's something sacred about isolation. Something divine happens in the quiet. It's in the wilderness, not the crowd, that God speaks the clearest. It's in the unseen places that he begins to build you, shape you, form you, and protect you from what you're not ready for yet. Most people think isolation is a sign of abandonment, but in God's world, it's a sign of intention. You're not being left behind. You're being set apart because you can't receive what's next while still holding on to what's old. You can't walk into the promise if you're still tied to what was. So God removes, he disconnects, he unsettles, he takes people out of your life, he closes doors, he shuts down plans, not to hurt you, but to help you focus. Focus on him, focus on the growth, focus on who you're becoming, not just what you're doing. Think about Joseph. He had a dream, something glorious, something beautiful. But before the dream became a reality, he was thrown into a pit by his own brothers, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and locked away in prison. Was God absent? No. God was working every moment in that isolation. God was building character, integrity, trust. Joseph was isolated to be elevated. Had he stayed with his brothers, he never would have reached the palace. The pit wasn't punishment, it was placement. The prison wasn't rejection, it was redirection. And the same goes for you. If you find yourself hidden, forgotten, or misunderstood, understand this. Sometimes God hides you so he can heal you. Sometimes he isolates you so he can increase you. We often want the blessing without the breaking. We want the elevation without the preparation. But God doesn't operate like that. He's not interested in rushing your process just to satisfy your impatience. He loves you too much to let you rise too fast, because a blessing too soon is a burden. So he isolates. He pulls you back to push you forward. He separates you not to diminish you, but to develop you. You think you're being overlooked, but really you're being overseen by the only one who knows the whole picture. You're not being delayed, you're being designed. Isolation teaches you to hear differently. When you're no longer surrounded by noise, you start to hear God's voice with clarity. You start to recognize his whisper. You start to lean into faith, not just feelings. In the quiet, the distractions die. The masks fall off. You learn who you really are when there's no one to impress. And that's exactly where God wants you, because only in authenticity can the anointing flow. Only in vulnerability can true transformation happen. And only in private can God truly prepare you for what he's about to do in public. Think about Jesus. Before the miracles, before the crowds, before the cross, he was led into the wilderness. 40 days of isolation, 40 days of hunger, of temptation, of silence. Why? Because even the Son of God needed to be fortified before stepping into his calling. The wilderness wasn't a mistake, it was part of the mission, and so is yours. If you're in the wilderness right now, don't despise it, embrace it. God is doing something in you that can't be done in comfort. He's stretching your faith, pruning your heart, strengthening your spirit. What feels like a setback is actually a setup. There's a kind of intimacy that's birthed in isolation, a closeness with God that you can't get when you're surrounded by applause. The applause fades, the crowd leaves, but God stays. And when he's all you have, you realize he's all you ever needed. Sometimes he'll strip away the distractions to remind you that he's the source, not the job, not the relationship, not the accolades. When you finally get that, you're ready for the blessing. The problem is, we fight isolation. We resist it. We label it as loneliness, as punishment, as rejection. But rejection is often redirection. Loneliness can lead to revelation. Isolation is not the end of the story. It's the beginning of a new chapter, and it's in that sacred space where the most powerful transformation happens. The caterpillar doesn't become a butterfly in a crowd. It happens in a cocoon, in darkness, in stillness. Away from the eyes of the world, the beauty comes after the breaking. The glory comes after the grind. So many people want the promise, but not the process. But there is no shortcut to spiritual growth. There is no microwave blessing. God is not interested in just giving you something. He's interested in making you someone, and that requires time, stillness, silence, submission. He'll take you through seasons of obscurity to prepare you for seasons of visibility. Because what good is a platform if your character can't support it? What good is a crown if you don't know how to carry it? In isolation, God teaches you lessons you can't learn in the crowd. He teaches you how to pray, how to endure, how to trust, how to wait. Waiting is not wasting. It's working. God does his best work in the waiting room. And when he finally opens the door, you'll realize every tear, every silent night, every unanswered prayer was part of the divine design. Nothing was wasted, not one moment. Think about David, anointed king while still a shepherd, chosen by God, but still tending sheep in the field. He wasn't immediately promoted. He was placed in isolation, away from the palace, away from power. But it was in the field that he learned how to fight. It was in the field that he developed the courage to face Goliath. No crowd, no recognition, just obedience. God used the isolation to instill identity. He used the quiet to build the king. And when the time was right, God brought him out. Not a second too soon, not a moment too late. That's what God is doing with you. Don't rush it. Don't try to escape the quiet. Lean into it. Let it teach you. Let it mold you. Let it uncover what needs healing. Because when God isolates you, it's because he's protecting what he's placing inside you. He's not punishing you. He's preparing you. There's a blessing on the other side of the silence. There's purpose on the other side of the pain. There's increase on the other side of the isolation. Sometimes you have to lose everything to realize that God is your everything. Sometimes he'll take you out of the crowd so you can hear his call. And sometimes the blessing isn't what you receive. It's who you become. You become stronger, wiser, more dependent on him, more rooted in faith, less swayed by people, less distracted by noise, and more in tune with your true identity. So if you're in that place right now, the in-between, the unseen, the uncomfortable, don't give up. Don't let the silence make you believe that God is absent. He's closer than ever. He's working while you're waiting. He's moving even when you feel stuck. Trust that he knows what he's doing. Trust that he's building something beautiful, not just around you, but in you. Because when the blessing comes, and it will make sense. Every tear will make sense. Every lonely night, every confusing season, every door that closed, every person who walked away, it will all make sense. Because God doesn't waste pain. He doesn't waste isolation. He uses it. He refines you with it. And he reveals himself through it. When he brings you out, you won't just be blessed, you'll be ready. You'll be strong enough to carry the blessing without it carrying you. You'll be wise enough to handle the spotlight without losing your soul. And you'll be grateful, not just for what you have, but for who you became in the process. God isolates you for a reason. He sets you apart before he sets you above. He breaks you before he blesses you. He hides you before he highlights you. So don't fight the process. Embrace it, trust it, because the blessing is coming. The breakthrough is on the way, but before it shows up, God is making sure you're ready for it. He loves you too much to give it to you too soon. So let him finish what he started. Let him do the work in the quiet, in the dark, in the hidden places. Because when he brings you out, it'll be more than you asked for, more than you imagined, more than you deserve. And you'll look back at this season, the isolation, the silence, the waiting, and you'll thank God for it. Because without it, you wouldn't be who you are. You wouldn't be ready. And the blessing wouldn't have meant as much. But now, because of the breaking, because of the building, because of the process, you're not just blessed, you're prepared. And that makes all. Have you ever found yourself in a season where everything seems quiet, where friends become distant, opportunities dry up, and even God seems silent? It feels like you've been set aside, forgotten, or worse, rejected. But what if that season of isolation isn't a punishment at all? What if it's preparation? What if God isn't removing things to harm you, but to ready you for what he's about to bring into your life? We often misunderstand isolation. Our minds equate silence with absence, distance with disinterest. But God doesn't operate the way people do. He doesn't always speak in the loud, booming ways we expect. Sometimes he speaks through the stillness, and sometimes he leads you into a season where it feels like you're alone, not to hurt you, but to prepare you for something bigger than you can imagine. When God has a plan for your life, he doesn't rush it. He takes his time to build the foundation. And foundations are never built in the open. They're built underground, out of sight. No one applauds when the concrete is being poured. No one celebrates when steel is being set in place beneath the surface. But without that hidden preparation, the structure above will never stand. That's what God does in isolation. He lays your foundation. He takes you away from the noise, away from the spotlight, away from the comfort of the crowd, because he knows that certain lessons can only be learned in the quiet. Strength doesn't grow when life is easy. Character isn't built when everything goes your way. Deep faith doesn't develop when you're surrounded by support. These things grow in the solitude. They grow when you're on your knees with no one else to lean on. They grow when you have to depend on God for every breath, every word, every step. Think about it. Many of the greatest people in Scripture went through intense periods of isolation before stepping into their purpose. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness before leading Israel. Joseph endured betrayal, slavery, and prison before becoming second in command in Egypt. David was anointed king as a boy, but spent years in the wilderness running for his life before he wore the crown. Even Jesus withdrew to the wilderness before beginning his ministry. The pattern is consistent. Before the elevation comes isolation. Before the calling is fulfilled, the character is forged. And that's because God isn't just interested in giving you a blessing, he's interested in making you ready to carry it. A blessing given too soon can become a curse. A promotion without preparation can crush you. So God in his mercy holds back what you think you're ready for, and he draws you into a season where you have nothing but him, so he can become everything to you. That's not punishment. That's love. You may feel hidden right now, but hidden doesn't mean forgotten. You may feel like you're in the middle of nowhere, but the truth is, you're in the middle of God's workshop. He's building you in private so he can reveal you in public. He's allowing the silence not to discourage you, but to strengthen you. He's stripping away what you don't need so that what remains is pure, unshakable, and rooted in him. So don't despise the isolation. Don't rush out of it. Don't mistake it for rejection. Understand that it's a necessary part of your journey. God is setting you apart so he can do something in you that he couldn't do with distractions all around. He's investing in you because he has something extraordinary ahead. And when the time is right, he will bring you out, not empty, not broken, but prepared, strong, focused, ready, because that's what isolation is with God, not punishment, preparation. When God leads you into isolation, it's often because he wants to remove distractions from your life. In our everyday world, there's a constant buzz, phones ringing, social media notifications, endless conversations, and the opinions of others. These distractions can drown out the subtle voice of God and keep you from focusing on your true purpose. Sometimes God has to step in and silence the noise, pulling you away from all the clutter that's stealing your attention. Distractions come in many forms. They might be people who demand your time but don't support your growth. They might be environments that drain your energy instead of building it. They might be habits or worries that keep your mind scattered and your heart restless. God knows that if you are going to receive the blessings he has prepared for you, you need clarity. You need peace. You need to be able to hear his guidance clearly without interference. Isolation provides that clarity. When you're alone, away from the constant demands and pressures of life, your focus sharpens, your mind quiets, you begin to listen more attentively, not just to God's voice, but to the desires he's planted in your heart. In this quiet place, the distractions that once seemed overwhelming lose their power. You start to see what really matters and what was merely noise. Think about it like this. Imagine trying to have an important conversation in a crowded, noisy room. It's hard to focus, right? You might miss important details, misunderstand what's being said, or simply tune out. But when you move to a quiet place, you can hear every word clearly, respond thoughtfully, and engage fully. God's isolation works the same way. He moves you into a quieter place so you can hear him better and understand your path more clearly. Moreover, distractions can lead you off course. They can keep you busy but not productive, engaged but not fulfilled. God removes distractions because he wants your energy and attention focused on what truly matters, growing in faith, developing your character, and preparing for the blessings ahead. When you are free from distractions, you can invest your time and heart into the things that will last. In isolation, you also learn to depend less on external validation and more on God's approval. When the noise of the crowd fades, you no longer need people's applause to feel worthy. Your confidence shifts from what others think to what God knows about you. This is a vital step in spiritual growth because it frees you from people-pleasing and sets you on a path of authentic living. Many biblical figures experience this. Elijah fled to the wilderness to escape the chaos and distractions of a hostile world. There, in solitude, he encountered God in a still, small voice. Jesus himself often withdrew from the crowds to pray and reconnect with the Father. These moments of isolation were necessary to keep their focus sharp and their mission clear. So if you find yourself isolated, don't see it as a punishment or a setback. See it as God's way of clearing away everything that's pulling you away from him and his purpose for your life. It's a sacred pause, a reset button that helps you realign with what's truly important. In that quiet, distraction-free space, God is preparing you, refining you, and guiding you toward the amazing blessings he has in store. Embrace the silence and allow God to remove the distractions that have been holding you back. Transformation often happens in hidden places, those quiet, unseen seasons where no one seems to notice your struggle, your growth, or your progress. It's easy to get discouraged when you feel overlooked or forgotten, especially when you're working hard, but the results aren't visible. But history, both biblical and personal, teaches us that the most profound change often takes place away from the spotlight, behind closed doors, and in the solitude of preparation. When God wants to shape you into the person you're meant to be, he often starts in places where no one else can see. These hidden seasons are not a punishment, but a purposeful process. Like a seed planted underground, the work happening is invisible but essential. The roots are growing strong, the foundation is being laid deep, and the plant is gathering strength to one day break through the surface and bloom. Take Joseph's story as an example. He was sold into slavery, falsely accused, and imprisoned, far from the glory and promise God had shown him in dreams. Yet during these hidden years, Joseph's character was refined. His faith grew, his wisdom increased, and his integrity was proven. If Joseph had been thrust immediately into a position of power, he might not have been ready to lead. But in the hidden place, God was preparing him for greatness. Similarly, David was anointed king while still a young shepherd boy. But before his coronation, he spent years in the fields and later fleeing for his life. Those hidden years were crucial for building his courage, faith, and humility. They were the training ground for the leader he would become. Without that period of obscurity, he may not have been equipped to handle the challenges of ruling a nation. Hidden places teach patience and perseverance. When you can't see immediate results or recognition, it's tempting to give up or feel forgotten. But those moments test your faith. They reveal your true motives and reveal how much you trust God's timing. Transformation in these seasons is slow and sometimes painful, but it is deep and lasting. In hidden places, distractions fall away. Without the pressure of public approval or external expectations, you can focus inward. You start to confront your weaknesses, develop new strengths, and discover who you really are beneath the surface. It's a time of introspection and healing that prepares you for your next big step. God's work in hidden places also teaches humility. When you aren't in the spotlight, you learn to serve without recognition. You develop a heart for God and others that isn't dependent on praise or status. This humility will be essential when you step into the blessing because it keeps you grounded and focused on your purpose, not on yourself. Transformation in hidden places is not wasted time. It's God's secret workshop where he molds you into his masterpiece. So, if you find yourself in a season where you feel unseen or stuck, remember that growth is happening beneath the surface. Trust the process. Keep nurturing your faith. God is working in the hidden places to prepare you for the amazing future he has planned. One day you will break through into the light, stronger, wiser, and ready. And when you do, the world will see the beautiful transformation that happened while no one was watching. The hidden place was not a place of punishment or neglect. It was a place of preparation, where God was at work shaping you for his glory. Waiting is one of the hardest things to do, especially when you're desperate for change, relief, or breakthrough. When life seems stuck and the answer doesn't come as quickly as you want, it's easy to feel like time is being wasted. But the truth is, waiting is not wasting. It's working. It's an active season, even if it feels passive on the surface. God's timing is perfect, even when it doesn't match our own. When you find yourself waiting, it's because God is doing something in the background that you can't yet see. He's working on your character, your faith, your heart, and your spirit. These inner developments take time, and rushing the process can cause you to miss the deeper growth he wants to give you. Waiting refines your patience and endurance. It teaches you how to trust God even when the situation looks hopeless. Faith grows strongest in the waiting room because it has to be exercised without immediate proof. This is when you learn to rely on God's promises instead of your own understanding or timing. Waiting stretches your spiritual muscles and builds resilience that will serve you well when your blessing finally arrives. Consider the story of Abraham and Sarah. They waited decades for the promise of a child, a promise God had given them clearly. During that waiting period, their faith was tested and refined. It was easy to become discouraged or give up, but they didn't. Their waiting was not in vain. When the promise was fulfilled, it was a miracle that changed their legacy forever. Their story reminds us that waiting is a crucial part of the process, not a detour. Waiting also allows God to prepare the circumstances perfectly. Sometimes you think you're ready, but God needs to align every piece, the people, the timing, the opportunities before he releases the blessing. This careful orchestration means that when your time comes, everything falls into place smoothly and powerfully. Waiting makes sure that your breakthrough doesn't just happen, but it happens in a way that honors God's plan and maximizes your potential. In the waiting season, you're not meant to be idle. You're meant to be growing, learning, praying, and preparing. It's a time to cultivate your skills, deepen your relationship with God, and remove anything that might hinder your progress. Waiting is active, even if it looks like stillness from the outside. God often uses waiting to teach you humility and dependence. When you can't fix things yourself or force the outcome, you learn to surrender control and trust God's sovereignty. This surrender is a powerful spiritual breakthrough that sets the stage for lasting blessing. It shows God that you are ready to partner with him fully, not just receive what you want on your own terms. So if you're in a season of waiting, don't grow weary or discouraged. Don't fall into the trap of thinking your time is being wasted. Instead, believe that God is working behind the scenes. He is shaping you, strengthening you, and setting the stage for a blessing that will be worth every moment of waiting. Remember, waiting is not wasting. It's working, preparing you for the amazing things God has planned. When life pulls you away from the noise and the crowd and you find yourself in solitude, something powerful begins to happen. Your true identity starts to emerge. In the midst of isolation, away from the expectations, opinions, and influences of others, you come face to face with who you really are. This process is not always easy, but it is essential. Your identity is shaped in solitude. Often our sense of self is influenced by the world around us. We try to fit in, seek approval, or live up to the labels others place on us. We perform roles and wear masks to gain acceptance. But in solitude, all those external pressures fall away. You are left with only yourself and God, and in that quiet space you begin to see yourself through God's eyes, not the world's. The solitude strips away pretenses and reveals your heart's true desires, fears, strengths, and weaknesses. It's a mirror that reflects back your authentic self, without distractions. You can ask the hard questions. Who am I really? What do I believe? What is my purpose? These questions lead to deep self-awareness, which is the foundation for spiritual growth and emotional health. When God isolates you, He's inviting you to discover your worth beyond achievements, relationships, or status. He wants you to know that your value comes from being His beloved child, not from what you do or what others say about you. In solitude, you learn to rely on God's affirmation instead of seeking constant validation from people. Many biblical figures experienced this transformation in solitude. Jesus often withdrew to lonely places to pray and reconnect with the Father. It was in those quiet moments that He strengthened His identity as the Son of God, ready to fulfill His mission. Likewise, Moses spent time alone on Mount Sinai, where God revealed His purpose and identity as a leader to deliver His people. Solitude also builds resilience. When you're alone, you learn to be your own source of strength because you can't depend on others all the time. You develop inner peace and confidence that comes from knowing who you are and whose you are. This confidence is not arrogant, but humble, rooted in truth and grace. In a world that constantly demands your attention and approval, solitude is a sacred space for healing and growth. It allows you to disconnect from the chaos and reconnect with your soul. It's where you are formed, not just shaped by circumstances, but transformed by God's presence. If you're feeling isolated right now, don't fear the silence. Instead, embrace it as an opportunity to discover your true identity. Let go of the need to perform or prove yourself. Allow God to speak directly to your heart and remind you of your worth. Your identity is being shaped in this quiet season, preparing you to step confidently into the blessings and purpose He has for you. Solitude is not emptiness, it's fullness in God. It's where you become who you were always meant to be. The journey through isolation, waiting, and transformation can be difficult, painful, and full of uncertainty. But one truth remains steadfast. The blessing at the end of this process is worth every moment. Often, when you are in the middle of struggle or silence, it's hard to believe that good things are coming. The temptation to give up, to question God's plan, or to resent the waiting is strong. Yet the promise of God's blessings is real, and they are always worth the process. God's timing and methods are perfect, even when they don't align with our desires. He doesn't rush because He wants to prepare you fully, not just for receiving the blessing, but for sustaining it. Blessings that come too soon, without preparation, can be overwhelming or even destructive. But when God brings you through the refining fire, through the solitude and waiting, He is equipping you with the strength, wisdom, and maturity necessary to handle what lies ahead. The process itself is part of the blessing. Every challenge you face, every lonely night, every moment of doubt is shaping you. It's teaching you resilience, faith, and dependence on God. These lessons become part of the foundation that will hold you steady when the blessing arrives. You won't just receive favor or success, you'll receive the ability to steward it well. Consider the story of Esther. Before she became queen and saved her people, she spent time in preparation waiting, learning, and trusting God's plan. In the background, when her moment came, she was ready to step up with courage and wisdom. The blessing of her position wasn't just about privilege. It was about purpose and responsibility. Her process prepared her for that. Similarly, the blessings God has for you are not just rewards, they are opportunities. Opportunities to grow, to impact others, to fulfill your destiny. That's why the process matters. It makes you ready, not just to receive the blessing, but to live out the purpose behind it. When you emerge from isolation, you will see the process clearly. The pain, the silence, the waiting, they were all necessary steps. They were God's way of making you ready. And the blessing, it will exceed what you imagined because it comes after you've been prepared to handle it. So hold on. Keep trusting God's process. Don't rush or resent the preparation. Remember that the blessing is worth the process. When it comes, you will be stronger, wiser, and more ready than ever before. And you'll know deep in your heart that every step of the journey was part of God's perfect plan for your life.